Hey guys, this is Tommy, Tommy Nation Politics.
The resignation speech of George Washington. The great events on which my resignation depended having at length taken place, I have now the honor of offering my sincere congratulations to Congress and of presenting myself before them to surrender into their hands the trust committed to me and to claim the indulgence of retiring from the service of my country. Happy in the confirmation of our independence and sovereignty, and pleased with the opportunity afforded the United States of becoming a respectable nation, I resign with satisfaction the appointment I accepted with diffidence. A diffidence in my abilities to accomplish so arduous a task, which, however, was superseded by a confidence in the rectitude of our cause, the support of the supreme power of the Union, and the patronage of heaven. The successful termination of the war has verified the most sanguine expectations, and my gratitude for the interposition of Providence, and the assistance I have received from my countrymen, increases with every review of the momentous contest. While I repeat my obligations to the Army in general, I should do injustice to my own feelings not to acknowledge in this place the peculiar services and distinguished merits of the gentlemen who have been attached to my person during the war. It was impossible the choice of confidential officers to compose my family should have been more fortunate. Permit me, sir, to recommend in particular those who have continued in service to the present moment as worthy of the favorable notice and patronage of Congress. I consider it an indispensable duty to close this last solemn act of my official life by commending the interests of our dearest country to the protection of Almighty God, and those who have the superintendence of them to His holy keeping. Having now finished the work assigned me, I retire from the great theater of action, and bidding an affectionate farewell to this august body under whose orders I have so long acted, I here offer my commission and take my leave of all the employments of public life.
Happy 4th, guys.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night, through the light above. From the mountains to the valleys, to the oceans far from home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Domination politics, free thinking, innovative, open-minded, true. From the mountains to the valleys, to the ocean far from home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Goodwin, and there we saw the men and boys as thick as hasty pudding.
And there was Captain Washington upon a flapping stallion, and giving orders to his men, I guess there was a million.
Yankee-doodle, keep it up, Yankee-doodle dandy.
We have a vision of Washington today that's very distant. He seems almost sort of a figure off Mount Olympus, if not Mount Rushmore. And we think of him as being above the partisan fray, and as a result, he's lost a bit of his humanity. He was a very self-monitoring man. He understood very clearly the discipline of dignity, which is how he saw leadership, being a general. But that behind the mask of command that he very carefully cultivated, that particularly during his second term, that this was a man in pain, psychic pain, physical pain. He was becoming brittle and ill-tempered. He would go into furious rages, largely about the forces of partisanship that he could feel exploding even within his own cabinet. You know, here was a man with no sons, but his two most talented cabinet members, two surrogate sons, Jefferson and Hamilton, were warring with each other even within his own cabinet. And here Washington was trying to reconcile their divisions very actively. There was every indication that America might devolve into a civil war, that we could go the way other republics had in the past, of being divided and our own worst enemy. And that's what Washington, based on his understanding of history, actively was trying to correct with the farewell address.
Beginning to learn that the United States isn't quite the golden paradise nation that most people in the US are taught to believe that it is. And now most of you, non-Americans, are probably about to click away off this video. And I would encourage you not to, because this story that I want to tell you today has a direct connection to most revolutions. And as I learn more about the American Revolution and the different events that it happens, I'm not only surprised that this event did occur, but at the same time, I'm speechless at how it was handled and how it's even not taught today. So, without giving it away, today, I want to talk about the Newburgh conspiracy. The year was 1783. It had been 2 years since the combined French and American victory at Yorktown, which had seen the surrender of Lord Cornwallis. The past revolution by the Confederation Congress to provide half pay for retired soldiers looked less likely, as the states did not comply with Congress's request for the needed funds. Part of the Revolutionary Army had felt that they had been long ignored by the Congress and would soon be disbanded when the war came to close. Some of the camp wanted to scare Congress to guarantee the promise of this half-pay bill. On March 10th, an address written by Major John Armstrong was circulating through camp and called for the men to abandon the moderate tone of their leader, George Washington. If the Congress couldn't comply, then the Army should either disband, leaving the nation unprotected, or refuse to disband after the peace treaty was signed. Now, this was a soft threat of a military takeover. A meeting had been called to take place on the next day, March 11th, and this address electrified the camp. And Washington, having heard this going to take place, called off the meeting and instead called for a meeting 4 days later. He also implied that he would not be present, in hopes that more would probably attend. So along came March 15th. The officers gathered, and General Horatio Gates, whom historians believed might be the real man to suggest this coup, sat at the head of the hall. As Gates began to speak, the door at the back of the hall opened, and in stepped George Washington.
Gentlemen, you will permit me to put on my spectacles. For it seems I have not just grown gray, but nearly blind in the service of my country.
Washington walked to the front of the room and asked Gates if he could say a few words, and then Gates could continue the meeting. Being Washington's subordinate, Gates agreed and sat down.
If my conduct heretofore has not evinced to you that I have been a faithful friend to the army, my declaration of it at this time would be equally unavailing and improper. But as I was among the first to embark on the cause of our common country, and I have never left your side one moment but when called from you on public duty, as I have been the constant companion and witness of your distresses, and not among the last to feel and acknowledge your merits, as I have ever regarded my own military reputation as inseparably connected with that of the army, as my heart expanded with joy when I have heard its praises, and my indignation arisen when the mouth of detraction has opened against it, it can scarcely be supposed at this last stage of the war that I am indifferent to your interests. But how are they to be addressed? I know that Congress is slow, but it is my opinion that Congress is an honorable body.
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now giving her assessment of Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is a woman that's deeply unwell and clearly needs some help. And her kind of fixation has lasted for several years now. It's at this point, I think, the depth of that unwellness has raised concerns for other members as well. And so, I think that this is an assessment that needs to be made by the proper professionals. She said,
I don't know if you could hear all of that, but she said she's deeply unwell. Marjorie Taylor Greene reportedly shouted down Ocasio-Cortez earlier this week in the halls of the Capitol, and this aggressive behavior dates back to early 2019, when then Marjorie Taylor Greene, not yet in Congress, recorded her trip to Capitol Hill. This video has since been unearthed by CNN's K-File team.
All right, we're going to go see, we're going to visit Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Crazy eyes, Nutty Cortez. Okay, hang with us, guys. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'm an American citizen. I pay your salary through the taxes that you collect from me through the IRS, because I'm a tax-paying citizen of the United States. So you need to stop being a baby and stop locking your door and come out and face the American citizens that you serve. If you want to be a big girl, you need to get rid of your diaper and come out and be able to talk to the American citizens instead of us having to use a flap, a little flap.
It's kind of like hers. It's kind
sad.
Stop being a baby.
Slot. Yeah.
I mean, to yell, talking through the mail slot and calling somebody childish, sophomoric names.
You know what? I'm always surprised, I guess I shouldn't be, that she wanted to share that video. That she wanted people to see her shouting at a member of Congress or speaking to her through a mail slot, because I guess that gave her some type of bona fides. She's done this with David Hogg as well.
Given time, it will do complete justice to your merits.
Oh, it also gave her money.
Yes,
she has raised $3 million in the first quarter of 2021 because she posts this stuff, and there are people who like it. And, I'm glad you brought up the David Hogg thing, because we can't forget, this is her modus operandi. She chased a teenage Parkland school shooting survivor down the street, screaming at him about her zeal for open carry laws or concealed carry laws, I can't remember, but guns, basically. Let me just remind people.
Look, I'm an American citizen. I'm a gun owner. I have a concealed carry permit. I carry a gun for protection for myself, and you are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights. You don't have any
your sufferings. So let me entreat you, gentlemen, not to take any measures which will lessen the dignity and sully the glory you have maintained. Now is the time to show one more proof of your patriotism.
You can't defend your stance? How did you get over 30 appointments with senators? How'd you do that? How did you get major press coverage?
I mean, I talked to David Hogg after this, Victor, and he said that it took like every ounce of his sort of Zen mindfulness not to turn around because she baits people. I mean, she baits people using their, you know, trigger words about guns and everything to try to get them into an altercation.
And apparently she's doing the same thing now with her colleagues in the House, that they're having to center themselves as they're being shouted at by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, earlier today, House members selected New York Congresswoman and the embracer of the big lie, Elise Stefanik, to replace Representative Liz Cheney in her House GOP leadership spot. Stefanik used her first news conference this morning to convince the country that her party is unified.
To rise above your sufferings. And by witnessing the dignity of your conduct, the world will speak of the glorious example you have established for all mankind.
So I'm very excited for this opportunity. We are unified, working as one team. This is about being unified. We are unified, and I look to the voters across America. Republican voters are unified in their support and their desire to work with President Trump, and we are unified as Republicans. We are working as one team. We are going to win the majority in 2022 as one team. We are unified in working with President Trump. My job representing our Republican members, the vast majority of you look forward to working with President Trump.
That's what you call a talking point when you say it so many times. Listen, what we're seeing from House Republicans right now is really not what we saw from the Republican Party just a few years ago. So how did it get from the party of Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump and the big lie?
So here was a man in full, and he brought all the aspects of his life into this speech. It was the sum total of all his hard-won wisdom. This was a document that people understood had a kind of transcendent value. It alone, I think, has the ambition among the founding documents to bridge the past with the present, with the future.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
Continued, quote, "Give one more distinguished proof of unexampled patriotism and patient virtue, and to place full confidence in the purity of the intentions of the Congress," end quote. Washington then told the men that he wanted to end by reading a letter from Joseph Jones, who was a congressman from Virginia. He struggled to read through the first paragraph, having to move the paper to his strained eyes. He reached into his pocket for a pair of spectacles. The men he was standing in front of had never seen him wear spectacles before, and they began to murmur. Responding to the murmur, Washington responded, quote, "Gentlemen, you must pardon me, for I've not only grown gray, but also blind in the service of my country."
This is the voice of the scarab, Wilson. I command you to drive your tower over the cliff. The scarab is speaking to you, Evans. You have reached the end. You will walk to the window and step out into eternity. You are under the power of the scarab, Jackson. Your weapon is in the right-hand drawer of your desk. Use it.
The death of Harold Jackson, well-known attorney, is another link in the chain of mysterious crimes known as the Purple Death Murders. In each case, a subtle, unknown poison has been found in the bloodstream of the dead man, and each victim clutched in his hand a jeweled scarab. The scarab, ironically, was the symbol of eternal life among the ancients. It is significant that all of the murdered men were actively or financially connected with a recent scientific expedition into the ancient Mayan ruins of Central America. The authorities are completely baffled, and the mayor has called District Attorney Grant Gardner to appear before a meeting in the office of Police Commissioner Dryden.
Well, Mr. Mayor. And how are you, Commissioner?
Hello, Grant. The commissioner's been alibying his failure to turn up anything in these Purple Death murders. What are your excuses, Mr. Gardner?
I don't make excuses, but I do have a definite plan.
And that is?
I'd rather not discuss it now. You'll have to be patient. You remember the commissioner and I have cleaned up crime waves in this town before.
Yes, but that mysterious Captain America did most of your work for you. If we could only contact him now.
I feel certain that this new crime wave will bring him out of hiding to help us.
And I hope so. We're up against a new type of scientific criminal. One that we'll never find in the usual haunts of crime.
New reporting on the Julian Assange case appears to be problematic for the U.S. Department of Justice. One of the main witnesses in Assange's extradition case, Siggy Thordarson, admitted he made false claims against Assange in exchange for immunity from prosecution. This could cause a major shift for the WikiLeaks founder, who currently faces up to 175 years in prison if brought to the U.S.
Activist and former Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson joins us now to discuss Assange's case in detail. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We really want to get your thoughts on this. Ryan said in his introduction that this could mark a major shift in Assange's case. Do you think that's true? Do you think this revelation in particular, which does seem to be so major, will ultimately create a major shift in the momentum for Assange?
It should destroy it. It is far greater than the technical glitch on the part of the government that got Daniel Ellsberg's case completely dropped. This was corroboration that probably the U.S. government knew that it was making with a person who was not a major player in the WikiLeaks scandal. They were basically trumping up these charges in order to bring this case to the British government. It should destroy the case completely.
Yeah, and to give people the background here, what the Department of Justice has tried to do is separate Assange from his role as a publisher. And try to imply or impugn that he's actually a hacker, that he's collaborating with hackers in order to extract information and then publish it. And then they can say, well, no, this is not a First Amendment case. We're just going after a traitorous hacker, even though how can he be traitorous to a country that he's not a citizen of is a completely other question. And so they were heavily relying on this on Siggy Thordarson to testify that Assange had participated in some hacking-like activity with regard to a bank in Iceland, which then they tried to use to buttress a claim that he collaborated with Chelsea Manning in extracting information, from the U.S. military. But in fact, the chats with Chelsea Manning don't show that at all. All they show is Assange helping Chelsea Manning with source protection, with not getting caught. That's what all journalists are supposed to do with confidential informants.
I tell you, Dr. Maldo, there's a curse on everyone connected with that Mayan expedition. Jackson's gone, and Wilson, and Evans. Why, you or I may be the next victim of the Scarab's Purple Death.
My dear Professor Lyman, you're overexcited. Calm yourself. Here, have a cigar.
Thank you.
Sit down, Professor, sit down. If there is an ancient curse upon us, this scarab who invokes it must be peculiarly mercenary. These men you have named are known to have withdrawn large sums of money from their banks just prior to their deaths.
That's true. But I'm not wealthy.
Ah, but the scarab wants other things. Rare jewels, paintings, antiques. He also wants scientific secrets such as you possess.
Just what do you mean?
The scarab wants the plans of the thermodynamic vibration engine which you have invented.
How did you find out about my vibrator?
The scarab has his own methods of obtaining information.
You? The scarab?
Yes. I'm the scarab. It is my vengeance which is striking at all of you. It was my expedition. I uncovered the secret information and laid the plans which made it successful. And how was I rewarded? I was made the curator of an insignificant museum, while the rest of you received the fame and wealth that should have come to me. You can't touch that phone. Sit down. For the short time you have to live, your mind is completely under my control. You must obey my commands. You are a slave of the Purple Death.
Purple Death? But how?
The fumes from this cigar. I want to know more about the vibrator.
It is a device for harnessing light and sound waves into a powerful force which will disintegrate any known material.
That could be used by me as a powerful weapon of destruction.
Yes.
Splendid. Where are the plans?
At home. In the safe.
Write down the combination. Gruber, you will take Professor Lyman out. He will obey your final instructions.
Yes. Step this way, Professor.
Farewell, Lyman. You'll find the plans in Lyman's safe. Here's the combination. And take these Purple Death bombs with you. They'll be silent and effective weapons if anyone interferes.
Yes, sir.
This is what we're after.
Just a minute. Throw your gun in a corner.
You too.
Police Commissioner Dryden speaking.
This is Captain America.
What's that? Where are you?
Never mind that. Professor Lyman's life is in danger.
Professor Lyman is dead. He stepped off a curb in front of a truck.
Another Purple Death accident. Well, at least I've accounted for one of the gang. You'll find his body at Professor Lyman's house. That's all.
Get me the district attorney's office.
Office of the District Attorney. Gail Richards speaking.
Let me speak to the DA.
Mr. Gardner isn't here now, Commissioner, but I expect to hear from him shortly.
Well, tell him that Captain America's on the job. He just killed one of the Purple Death murderers.
I'll tell him. Calling Captain America.
Come in, Gail.
Commissioner Dryden just told me the news. Do you need any help?
I will as soon as I get back to the office. Have Davis there. I have an important clue for him to analyze.
Right. He'll be here.
This stuff is distilled from the cypripedium, a little-known orchid. Highly concentrated as fumes form a deadly poison which leave those purple splotches on the victim's face. Careful, don't drop it.
Is it that dangerous?
It surely is. One whiff is enough.
Do florists have this cypripedium plant?
A few might. It's very rare.
Fine. We'll trick the guilty one into showing his hand. Gail, you and I will visit the dealers in rare flowers in the morning.
I'm Gail Richards from the District Attorney's office.
Yes, Miss Richards.
We're trying to identify the plant from which this liquid was extracted. It may help in a criminal investigation.
Sorry, I can't identify it.
Thank you.
No, I don't recognize it.
Thank you very much.
May I help you, miss?
I'm from the District Attorney's office. I have a plant extract which we're trying to identify with a murder investigation.
I'm sorry, miss. I'm afraid I won't be able to help you.
Oh, no. I see you do know what the Purple Death Bomb is.
You fooled me, all right, but it isn't going to do you any good. Get in there. Don't talk. Move. Well, this dame's wise to our setup. Turn around here. Tie her up.
And anytime you read in the Washington Post, said, three sources in the administration who requested anonymity for fear of reprisal, that's the exact same thing that we're doing. Assange was even pretty careful in those chats not to be soliciting specific information. His quote was something like, "Curious eyes are always interested in more information." Something very vague, which is almost what lawyers teach journalists to say. Of course, we're journalists. We're interested in public information, which is different than saying, please go into this file cabinet and take that particular document and hand it to me. So, Marianne, when you heard that Siggy here had been unmasked as having lied about Assange's role in hacking in the bank, what was your immediate reaction to that? Because you've been one of Assange's more outspoken advocates here in the U.S.
What I realized was that the U.S. government was willing to work with Thordarson to trump up these charges in order to bolster its case, in order to get the British government to let Assange come back. This is all in order for the United States government to continue its cover-up. This is what's important here. This is not really about Julian Assange. This is about the United States military wanting to cover up its war crimes. We need to talk about what Assange revealed here. What Assange revealed here was torture and rape and murder. What he revealed was up to 15,000 more civilian deaths than we had even known. What he revealed was Blackwater mercenaries who would indiscriminately murder civilian crowds, shoot into civilian crowds. What he revealed was the fact that there were up to 700 civilians, Iraqi civilians, who were killed for no other reason than that they got too close to checkpoints, and that we now know that many of those people were men trying to take pregnant women to the hospital.
Yes, speaking. The girl from the district attorney's office just came in. She had one of our purple death bombs and tricked me into showing my hand. What'll I do with her?
You have plenty of the extract? Use it.
That's what's going on here. It has to do with the United States government in collusion with the, well, not collusion, but in partnership with the U.S. military. This is about the U.S. war machine, about the fact that it is a very, very big business. It is very well funded. We are not supposed to question the funding, and we are not supposed to question what they do. This is about their secretiveness and how they use classified documents to protect that secretiveness. Classified documents, this issue of classified documents, and they dump millions every year. The law says that you can't, the government is not supposed to just be able to classify a document because they find it inconvenient for the information to be out there. It is supposed to be classified only if they have proof that it is a danger to national security for the information to be out there. But because they classify it, journalists aren't able to say, well, why are you classifying it? Because then they say, well, we can't tell you because it's classified. That is what this is really about. And they're making it all about Julian Assange in order to freeze any journalistic questioning, any journalistic pushback or challenge to the secretiveness of the U.S. government. That's why we have a free press.
You're getting
and the American, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, the American people are supposed to be loyal to the principles on which our freedom stands. We are to be loyal to the principles of our democracy, not to our government, no matter what the government is doing. It is the most patriotic American thing to always be on guard, and vigilantly so, against overreach by the U.S. government. And nothing is more of an overreach than official secretiveness that is unnecessary except to protect its own malfeasance.
And that is getting at such an important point, which is that this is not just about the past, and that is not just, this is not just about Julian Assange, this is about the future, it's about the present. So you ran against Joe Biden, who's really, I think, walked in lockstep with the neoliberal establishment for years on the Assange issue. I mean, he famously referred to him or compared him to a high-tech terrorist back in 2010, pursuing his extradition. Now, Assange's fiancée has called on the Biden administration to free him. What would your message to the Biden administration or to Joe Biden himself be right now with this revelation hitting the public?
I think Joe Biden needs to make the same decision that President Obama made, which is that if you go after Assange, then you have to go after the New York Times. Do you really want to do this, guys? I see this as a kind of trigger that the Biden crowd has about Hillary's emails. But Hillary's emails, if you have a problem on that issue, don't blame Assange, blame James Comey. So I hope that all of the noise that so many of us are making is an inconvenience to the Biden administration. I hope that more people are becoming aware what this case is really about. And I hope that the Biden administration will begin to feel it's not worth their while.
The 4th of July, or Independence Day, is a fun summer holiday. A day when you may see lots of flags, parades, and fireworks. But have you ever wondered what the celebration is about? Back in 1775, the 13 American colonies rebelled against the control of Great Britain and sparked a war, known in the United States as the Revolutionary War. After a year of fighting, the Second Continental Congress took a vote and decided that it was time for the colonies to officially declare their independence from British rule. They wanted to be free and to be in charge of their own government. On June 11, 1776, the Continental Congress appointed Thomas Jefferson, along with Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Robert Livingston, and Roger Sherman, to write a document to explain why they were declaring their independence. Thomas Jefferson wrote most of it, but after some changes by the other members of the committee, they presented it to Congress on June 28th. At first, not everyone agreed to vote for independence. They argued and debated the issue for days. Finally, on July 2nd, the agreement to declare independence passed. Congress made a few changes to the words of the document, and 2 days later, on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was officially adopted. Not only did the Declaration of Independence state that the colonies would no longer be under British rule, it said that governments only exist for the good of the people they govern, and that all people are equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
With certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?
Because July 4th is the day that the colonies said that they were free from Great Britain, the 4th of July is sometimes called America's birthday. Every year since then, Independence Day has been celebrated on July 4th with parades, music, gun salutes, cannon fire, and yes, even fireworks. I hope you enjoyed learning about the 4th of July today. Goodbye till next time.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
Douglas became a key leader of the abolitionist movement. On July 5th, 1852, in Rochester, New York, he gave one of his most famous speeches, What to the Slave is the 4th of July. He was addressing the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society. This is the actor James Earl Jones reading the historic address during a performance of Howard Zinn's Voices of a People's History of the United States. This is the late, great people's historian, Howard Zinn.
Frederick Douglass, once a slave, became a brilliant and powerful leader of the anti-slavery movement. In 1852, he was asked to speak in celebration of the 4th of July.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess their benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes that would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour forth a stream, a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and the crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and
The audience
denounced.
of about 600. He delivered one of his most iconic speeches that would become known by the name, What to the Slave is the 4th of July? This episode of Tommy Nation Politics is the Independence Day episode, and it explores... It's the 4th of July, and all across the United States, as we celebrate the Declaration of Independence that was declared in 1776, as we all celebrate and reflect on Independence Day. We might also want to remind ourselves that on July 5th, 1852, all men weren't created equal. And that was 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was signed. Declared. A Declaration of Independence, but not for the slaves. Gave an address that has become known as What to the Slave is the 4th of July. Speaking at Corinthian Hall in Rochester, New York. Rochester, New York, Eastman School of Music. Love that place. You know, Douglas argued in 1852 that celebrating values such as freedom and citizenship and on Independence Day was offensive to the enslaved population of the United States, who lacked liberty and identity. Douglas called the Founding Fathers brave and great men, but pointed out to the hypocrisies of the Declaration of Independence that preached life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, those principles that we're always talking about on Tommy Nation Politics? Well, those are the great principles of political freedom, guys. They're the greatest principles of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence. But was it extended to us? He continued, What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. Douglas also criticized the churches for betraying the Christian values by not taking a stand against slavery. Yes, they weren't taking a stand, they were very neutral, except when it comes to Joe Biden and his abortion. Frederick Douglass, in an engraving, check him out. It's the man right there. Call him the first black president. Sorry, Obama. Toward the end of his speech, Douglas made a plea for the abolition of slavery and argued for the institution to be abolished. I mean, based on plausible immorality. And it's very ironic that not even the church would take a stance on the support of slavery, about the support of the institution of. But, you know, factual proclamation came into effect January 1st, 1863, under Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so Confederacy was freed in Texas on June 19th. What have we become? Where have we come from? Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
The Resignation Speech of George Washington. The great events on which my resignation depended having at length taken place, I have now the honor of offering my sincere congratulations to Congress, and of presenting myself before them to surrender into their hands the trust committed to me, and to claim the indulgence of retiring from the service of my country. Happy in the confirmation of our independence and sovereignty, and pleased with the opportunity afforded the United States of becoming a respectable nation, I resign with satisfaction the appointment I accepted with diffidence. A diffidence in my abilities to accomplish so arduous a task, which, however, was superseded by a confidence in the rectitude of our cause, the support of the supreme power of the Union, and the patronage of Heaven. The successful termination of the war has verified the most sanguine expectations, and my gratitude for the interposition of Providence, and the assistance I have received from my countrymen, increases with every review of the momentous contest. While I repeat my obligations to the army in general, I should do injustice to my own feelings, not to acknowledge in this place the peculiar services and distinguished merits of the gentlemen who have been attached to my person during the war. It was impossible the choice of confidential officers to compose my family should have been more fortunate. Permit me, sir, to recommend in particular those who have continued in service to the present moment as worthy of the favorable notice and patronage of Congress. I consider it an indispensable duty to close this last solemn act of my official life by commending the interests of our dearest country to the protection of Almighty God, and those who have the superintendence of them to His holy keeping. Having now finished the work assigned me, I retire from the great theater of action, and bidding an affectionate farewell to this august body under whose orders I have so long acted, I here offer my commission, and take my leave of all the employments of public life.
The Declaration of Independence, guys. Tell me a time when. Learning principle. Leadership principle. What have we become? Where have we come from? Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Free thinking, innovative, totally open-minded, Tommy Nation politics.